Today on So That Was a Movie, we are discussing the new, very serious football drama. I'm here with Kendal today to discuss Home Team, which is very much about Sean Payton and his whole scandal and how he coped with it. And it's just a really tense portrayal of Sean Payton, portrayed brilliantly by Kevin James. Before you queued it up on Netflix, what were you thinking when you saw it? The poster, the title,
well,
what it was about.
When you read the title and it talks about Sean Payton, you're thinking, oh, it's a Sean Payton movie about the Bounty Gate, and it's going to actually be a serious movie. But that was not the case, because after the first 20 minutes, it starts becoming
the Kevin James Happy Madison vehicle, which I'm fine with, but it's just really jarring how they kind of cram it into this story that some people could look at it and be like, oh yeah, this is the story of Sean Payton and the Bounty Gate and how he coached his kid's football team. The movie starts off at the Super Bowl that Sean Payton and the Saints were in, and there was another team involved in that.
I wonder what team that was.
I don't know. We obviously did not feel particularly excited seeing the opening of the movie, reliving the Super Bowl and the game-losing interception drive.
A very depressing moment, even though I was like 5.
I think I was in like middle school. I remember like crying because they lost the Super Bowl and knowing I had to go to school the next day. And for some reason there were Saints fans. We live in southern Indiana, and for some reason there were some Saints fans because bandwagoning is the thing. And middle school, very much, people are stupid in bandwagons.
I actually dropped out of middle school.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The good news is, it's not done well enough for me to really care. They do it very weirdly, where it's like, if you've ever seen Kevin James' YouTube channel, it's basically that, but they decided to open a movie with it. So it's got like the green screen backdrop, and they're literally just inserting Kevin James into this movie, and that movie being the Super Bowl. And Sean Payton looks very much like Kevin James.
It's almost like they made his face go into Sean Payton's body.
Which was cool, and it worked seamlessly because they look so alike.
Yes, one's definitely fat.
The other one is definitely Kevin James. Wait,
Yeah,
what?
right,
Wait,
yes.
no.
Sean Payton ends up coaching his son's football team while he is suspended from the Saints, which I guess happened, but who knows how much of this is true.
Is their team that bad, though?
Yes, they were all terrible. They live in Texas.
Okay, to me that doesn't make sense.
Well, it's very well documented. They had one player who was literally scared of being tackled and scared of contact, but he cleverly came up with the idea to move him to offense so that he could avoid contact. Very ingenious move by the great head coach Sean Payton, who is for sure going to continue coaching well into the future and is totally not out of football anymore. And it's really good timing because the movie came out 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yes,
so,
yes.
yeah, makes a lot of sense, the timing. But also, the NFL season ended 2 weeks ago. So that's
Actually,
the way it
no,
works.
it hasn't ended. Got Super Bowl next week.
What is that?
I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Seems like
I only watch it for the Katy Perry stuff.
yeah, she's usually on it every year. So wait, what?
Yes.
The way that the story's done, trying to be a Sean Payton thing, it makes it funny when you see Rob Schneider literally playing the stepfather to his kid.
You know, the guy that wears the toupee in the grown-up movie.
In this one, he's just like a yoga aficionado and is really into like health drinks and weird shit like that. It's just really funny though, just when you think of Sean Payton watching this movie about himself, where Robbie Schneider as the stepfather to his kid and the one who ends up marrying his wife. The actual football coach of the youth team is played by Taylor Lautner. I guess he's a part of the Happy Madison crew now for some reason, it seems like, because he's been in this, and he was in Grown Ups 2, and he was also in The Ridiculous Six. So I guess his career has, now he's just one of Adam Sandler's buddies, I guess, which was not something I was expecting when I was growing up and had seen all the girls fawn over him in Twilight. Did not really think that's where his career was going to go. But that's where it went. But yeah, he does a decent job in this movie. They don't make him do anything outrageous. He's pretty good in it for what it is. But yeah, it's just very random that now he's in the Happy Madison movies.
I think he'd be better as an Iron Man.
Taylor Lautner for variant of Iron Man. You heard it here first. He's the only person who's ever said that. But now you will have seen him say it. So
And I'm being serious. So one of the kids that I specifically want to talk about is the sinner. So the center is a position of football where they hike the ball when the quarterback says hut or anything like that. And well, whenever they go into the field goal unit, their kicker actually sucks. He kicks the ball, and it doesn't go very far or high, so it kicks the center right in the butt. And the center, it always says, "Ow, my butthole." It's a very interesting part of the movie, which might be my favorite part of the movie.
Kendall really likes it when random kids say, "Ow, my butthole!" So yeah, it was one of the highlights of the movie, Home Team.
I used to say that all the time.
There's a lot of weird things like that in this movie. Like, I'm not sure what his name is, but he was on King of Queens, and he's in a lot of these Happy Madison movies, but he's the bigger guy. As one of the best comedic relief aspects of, he's just really out of shape, and he drives his bike to practice all the time because he was drinking. So he can't really know his, and they make a lot of jokes about it, and he's always out of shape.
And I'm pretty sure he drinks vodka on the side of the on the sidelines. So
yeah, some sort of liquor. If you've ever seen a movie with kids and football, it's basically the same kind of formula where they all suck. They're not good. They don't know what football is, but for some reason they're on this football team. They're just really bad, and then the coach comes in and fixes them, and then they start winning. And this coach kind of goes through the identity crisis and realizes it's about having fun and not winning. It's about having fun. And because they're kids. Basically follows that formula, and it's done on that level. It's not that bad, honestly, but you just keep remembering that this is all framed as a Sean Payton football movie telling his story. It's kind of offensive that way whenever they're just like haphazardly bringing up Bountygate, like, oh yeah, they paid players to literally try to injure each other on the field. Yeah, that kind of just gets brushed over and played for laughs because it's all in this very much silly little football comedy, which is not in itself that bad when they're just doing that. Since they're doing the Sean Payton thing, it comes across as ridiculous.
I think there was a lot of weird decisions.
Yeah, it takes a different turn. So if you're not expecting that, then yeah, you probably won't enjoy it because you'll just kind of be like, well, I thought I was going to get like a Kurt Warner kind of movie that had just come out.
Or like Remember the Titans type of feel, or The Blind Side. Just a serious, good football movie.
Yeah. It kind of seems like we're starting to get some of these NFL movies, and you kind of see this one come out after the Kurt Warner movie, and then you're like, oh, it's going to be about football and NFL stuff. But no, it's kind of just a goofy kids movie, which it wasn't necessarily that bad, but there were definitely some cringy parts. Movies always have a scene where they're trying to make it to the championship game. There's this one last play where, oh no, they're not going to win. They have to get this last play to go. And those usually come off as a fun little thing, but in this movie, what they do is...
I can explain. Rob Schneider, I guess he couldn't sell these energy bars, and then he's like, okay, cool, I'm going to go and give all the kids energy logs before they get on the bus. I guess all the kids actually eat these energy logs, even though it looked like a polar bear's penis. All of a sudden, the kid that always says, ow, my butthole, starts puking. And so they're just like, what's going on?
Why are all these kids throwing up?
And then, all of a sudden, you know it, every single kid starts throwing up, and they somehow score while throwing up.
And it's also coupled with the fact that it's literally drenching rain, and it's all muddy. So the scene looks just absolutely disgusting.
And it's a pretty terrifying scene.
All fronts.
If you were to take scenes from the Halloween series, the It movies, the Scream movies, the Chucky movies, it's scarier than any of those scenes combined. Starting to get flashbacks from a kid puking in my math class.
Yeah, and we don't want to remember kids puking in our math classes, okay? No. But some of the aspects that are kind of interesting about this movie is the fact that he is an NFL coach. Could he have been a fictional NFL coach and it been a way better movie because you're not thinking about Sean Payton and everything?
Yes. I think so, because I think if they try to make it an actual funny movie and not try to make it a Sean Payton movie, it could have been better. They could have had a coach named Bob Dylan.
Yeah, they could have named him Bob Dylan.
Yes, I think that would have been a great name for a coach.
Because there's some decent ideas, even though it's all the same cliche stuff you've seen a billion times. If it was just a random NFL coach, this stuff would be cool. Coming up with this offensive playbook, which obviously has a bunch of very complicated NFL plays. He's expecting all the kids to know what the hell he's talking about, even though they absolutely suck at football.
So, instead, because they couldn't figure out what the plays meant, they went to a Mexican restaurant and used condiments.
And that's how you learn football.
And during the games, the quarterback had no clue what he was talking about, and he had to tell him. One of the plays was about a burrito. He'd be like, burrito green iced tea. I want a burrito.
We should get a burrito.
They could have just made a movie like what's that one movie? The Little Giants?
Yeah, just make a Little Giants movie, but the twist is there's a coach that for some reason isn't in the NFL anymore, and then he comes back to coach his kid's football team. That's all you had to do.
Yeah, you didn't have to make it about Sean Payton, but I guess Sean Payton likes money. And Sean Payton probably made a lot of money from this, so he's like, no, heck with it, I'll make money.
Yeah, he was also in this,
Yeah.
which I was wondering the whole time, was he a producer on this? Was he involved in any way? And then all of a sudden, at the end, Kevin James is returning to the Saints, and he's like walking through the hallways, and it's all boom, 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 boom. And then all of a sudden, he's like, "Oh, hello, Mr. Janitor guy." And then the janitor turns around and is like, "I'm Sean Payton, actually."
They had this one girl that the kicker really liked,
Yeah,
but I'm not even talking about. I'm not talking about the girl they liked. I'm talking about the girl's mother.
Right.
She was literally a beast. First scene you see her, she's sniffing her armpits.
She's literally like this in the stands watching them, which brings me to my next point. It makes zero sense why her and her daughter are at these games. Because later on you find out that the rival coach that has this undefeated team called the Porcupines that always win the championship later revealed to actually be the stepfather of this girl who's at these games. This girl is always at the Warriors games. And the Warriors are a different team than the Porcupines.
They're actually way worse than the Porcupines. When I first saw that coach for the Porcupines, I thought it was Denzel Washington. I had to ask my dad if it was Denzel Washington. Not my greatest moment. You know.
Remember the Porcupines, coming soon to Netflix.
Can we talk about the
It
one
seems
kid
like-
on the Porcupines whose helmet is always off? The one kid?
Oh,
Because he looks familiar.
yeah.
He's
yeah,
like some like prodigy type
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. I noticed that partially. Like,
'Cause
yeah.
he was in the Super Bowl thing last year. It was like the entrance, like the opening. I
Yeah.
thought he looked familiar. I actually hate that kid. He's very cringy.
They also do kind of have fun with like the media aspect of it, which let's not sit here and pretend like any of this was happening when this Bounty Get scandal was coming. Nobody was like, "Oh, Sean Payton's coaching his kids team." This was not a big deal. Since it's a movie, obviously they played this up, but they kind of had fun with it because Dan Patrick is obviously a part of the Happy Madison crew, and he's in a lot of Adam Sandler's movies is just random people. Most famously in Longest Yard, where he plays the cop that arrests him. So he has his own show called the Dan Patrick Show because he's a sports guy, and they let him have fun just crapping on Kevin James through talking about Sean Payton. So yeah, so that part's kind of fun.
Bill Coward's in this movie also, and Kevin James actually had to call him for help because apparently there was some really old formation that he had no clue how to go up against, and he's like, "Hey, Bill Coward, how do I go up against this 1950s defense?" And so he just tells him.
As far as a rating goes, my rating for this would probably be like a 4 out of 10. I didn't dislike it necessarily like I thought I would once the movie started and had you thinking it was going to be a Sean Payton movie. I was kind of like, this is going to be awful. But then it kind of gets going and it's kind of just a silly football movie. And for that, it was decent. But yeah, the fact that it's all framed as a Sean Payton is definitely its biggest problem. So I give it a 4 out of 10.
Well, I think my rating, I'll give it a 4.5 out of 10.
A little bit higher.
Yeah, it wasn't great. And I thought it was honestly going to be a really good movie about Sean Payton. Like, I thought it would be like one of those movies, like serious football movies, like, okay, this was decent. But no, it was not that way at all. It was more of a kid's movie. Or a movie you want to watch when you get high. It's probably really good to like a 10-year-old that really loves football.
Home Team is on Netflix if you would like to give it a shot.